Well, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather, bringing you the latest long-range update. Boy, do we have a pattern change coming for you. I talked about it a little bit in my last update a couple of days ago, but the data is trending colder and much more interesting with a winter look, so let's get right into it here. First off, here's the pattern in the upper levels that we've got going on. Pretty much a zonal flow going on across the United States. Zonal means you just sort of go from left to right and you see the air pretty much just flowing the source here right across from the Pacific Ocean going out. Really not much going on. Slight ridging here, but really more of a zonal flow than anything, and that leads to boring weather. Not much of anything going on here, and that's milder air. So, you know, the air that we are getting here is coming off of warm waters of the Pacific Ocean, so rather than Canada, but that is about to change as I just put the upper air pattern here into motion. So here we are, we're going out into Sunday, and we warm up again this weekend. You can see a little bit of ridging. The heights starting to rise here, ridging starting to take place, but notice this trough starting to cut back down in here, and I want you to watch this ridge starting to reach all the way up to Alaska, and just watch how over the next little bit, over the next week, this thing just really pumps up, and so that by the time you get to next Wednesday, that's when the big changes are going to take place. You've got a big cold front essentially that's going to sort of cut down through here and go fast like this, and watch this huge ridge of high pressure, and just watch how far north this bad boy builds into the poleward. And that actually what it does, you see, is just look how deep this trough is starting to go down here. I mean, by the time you get here to next Friday, a week from tomorrow, you've got a massive ridge out here to the west. And this massive ridge out here to the west is forcing a trough down into here. Notice what you got going on here. Massive ridge out here in Greenland. So you've got strong blocking here. Here you've got a piece of the polar vortex that's been dislodged and headed south. And as a result of that, you've got cross-polar flow going on up here, sort of a ridge bridge, if you will. And you've got cold Arctic air being funneled all the way down in here. And I mean, just consider how deep this trough is, all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico before it goes back out like this. And then notice also over the Aleutian Islands out here towards the Bering Sea that you've got some consistent troughing going on as well. Remember, that's significant because the Bering Sea also correlates to our weather about 21 days later. And so if you have consistent troughing over here, the Bering Sea rule would tell you that later on down the road in time, that all folks, basically in layman's terms, that means that it's going to continue this pattern, and it's going to be locked in for a little while. And you know, just keep putting this into motion and just watch this. It just sort of you know, you have this go deep down to the south, and then watch, it starts to ease up just a little bit, but then watch, it sort of reloads and comes right back. And then by day 10, look at these temperature anomalies here. So this will be about Sunday the 10th of December, and look at this. With these collars here, I mean, this is ridiculous temperature anomalies. Let's just look at temperature here real quick. So here are your temperature anomalies, and folks, you know, you're talking temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below normal. That is huge. If you're talking an average temperature of 40 degrees, 20 to 30 degrees, you're talking an average temperature of 10 to 20 degrees going down with this. So this is just massively cold air, and I can show you that visually here. You can watch this. You can watch this milder warm air sort of this weekend get replaced. So here we are out to Tuesday, and you've got this big cold front going through the United States, and you can see the clash of air masses going on right here. Watch as that goes through here on Tuesday night into Wednesday, and watch how fast we crash. Notice that here in southern Indiana, we are in the 60s, even possibly some upper 60s squeezing in pretty close to us, and then all bets are off after that. And then just watch this air crash in. Cold air, and you're talking highs here by the time you're on Thursday. This model would have highs in the low 30s, and then watch as this. You notice, you see this little you know, this is a low pressure, and this could cause some impactful weather. We'll get to what that could cause here in a minute. some multiple clipper systems looking like they may roll through. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if that lays down any snowpack at all, like it says, and as I said, well, watch this sort of ease and then reload again and sort of come back down. And so, yes, you are talking, if I get to here, that's 4 degrees Fahrenheit over Indianapolis right there. And here down here, you're looking at temperatures 13 or so degrees. And this is valid at 0Z the 15th of December. So this would be 7 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday the 15th. So that is ridiculously cold air. Now, am I saying it's going to get down to those single-digit temperatures here? Maybe, maybe not. That's a big wild card at this point, but it highlights the potential that this thing certainly means business. If you just sort of look over the next 10 days at least, and that goes out to 15 days that I showed you, and that's when the big time cold comes. But the 10-day numbers from both of them, the GFS and the Euro, are showing that already kick into place. The GFS showing that kick in here as Tuesday night. On Tuesday, you reach into the mid-60s. The front goes through, and the next day, we'll look at these temperatures. You're sort of bottoming out on those. And the Euro is actually even colder on some of the days, but certainly in a very similar fashion. Euro is a little bit faster with that front, so there's some fine-tuning that needs to go on. But either way, brace yourself, because next week, midweek onward, there is some very cold temperatures coming through. Is this going to last a while? Well, let's take a look at our indices. Remember the Arctic Oscillation, that's air, cold air on the move from Canada, and when it's in the negative, it's on the move. And look, and the idea here consistently is that it stays in the negative, and some of the data here is suggesting it goes ridiculously deep into the negative. And of course, that's a result of that massive ridge reaching all the way up to the North Pole. That's what you get whenever you have that. And then if we look at the PNA, you get a positive PNA. That's a trough over us and a ridge over the western United States. Stays that way all through the forecast period. The only wild card here is the NAO. You get that blocking pattern over Greenland when it's negative. It's trending neutral or even just slightly in the positive on today's runs as you get passed out of there. But you know what? You don't have to have a negative NAO here to be able to get cold air. Whenever you've got an AO that stays that consistent and a PNA that positive, sometimes you don't always have to have the blocking. And the blocking for example, here is exactly what you see in Greenland. And you can see how it kind of relaxes. There's the blocking up in here, but notice how it kind of relaxes a little bit as you go in time. You don't necessarily have to have that strong blocking. It can be displaced a little further south there, and you can still get very much cold air in there. So that's not 100% necessary. It's helpful, but not 100% necessary. So the cold, pretty much a near certainty at this point that it's going to come. Now, what kind of weather would this? Let's talk about this, because here's the front that we had through today, and you can see that didn't really give us much. But as I put this into motion, dry weather, warm weather, high pressure kicks in this weekend. But then you got the next system starting to break out here on Monday night, overnight into Tuesday morning. Here you've got the next system with this front that's going to move through. And then watch what the GFS tries to do. As this system pulls through and it crashes, the GFS is actually wanting to sort of break out some snow on the back side of this. Now, is that anything significant? Excuse me. Maybe, maybe not. Likely, it's probably not going to be anything accumulating, and there's big questions on whether this will happen or not. It's going to depend on whether that cold air can catch up with the front as quickly as what the modeling is saying. I'm a little skeptical of that at this point, but I think it's sniffing out something that the potential is there, so we'll keep an eye on it in the coming days. If it did, I don't think you'd be talking about anything significant. The ground's going to be very warm and wet, and you're going to have some time to cool that down. It just might make it a little bit festive, so I don't see anything really significant with that one. That rolls through there, and then watch what you've got up here. Over in here, you've got essentially a lobe of the polar vortex. And that is, and remember, winds rotate counterclockwise around this, and so you've got this big time cold air spilling down in from the north on up into here. And as you do, these little pieces of energy roll through, and as a result of that, you can get some snow showers with this. And so that system sort of works its way off, but you see there's some lake effect snow starting to take place up in places around Lake Michigan and Superior and Huron, and you got some decent lake effect snows coming up into here. For us in southern Indiana, that's not going to affect us, but we've got some clipper systems that'll roll through. And so this one is around Friday Friday, December the 8th, it starts to roll this little clipper system through, and then follows up sort of right behind that with more on Saturday. And then behind that, you've got this next little piece of one that rolls through on Sunday. And then behind that, you've got another one, yes, for the following Tuesday, the 12th. And then beyond that, you've got a pretty decent-sized little system that wants to start it, sort of come through here. And this is the big storm system that I talked about last time around the 15th of December. I think that one could be pretty big. It had snow for us yesterday. It's actually got an ice storm, sleet and freezing rain over us at this point now. So, yeah, we'll have to see. It's far out and in fantasy land right now. But again, I do expect something pretty big around that time. But you're not going to be able to get details this far out. But it makes sense if you look at the pattern. So here's what we got going on. We're looking at the upper level vorticity right now. Vorticity is spin in the atmosphere. And whenever you get spin in the atmosphere, that's whenever you can squeeze out some precipitation of some sort. So here you go, and here's Tuesday, and there's your cold front, and there is this game-changing cold front, and you can see there's, you can just see, you can see it on the data as it goes through here. Let me just sort of stop it right here and then draw on it. Right there's the cold front, all right, and you can see it kind of plowing down in through here as you go. As that goes through, that'll bring some rain with it, and then watch what happens here. So now you got Friday. Watch this little piece of energy in specific right here, and watch that dive down right over us. That's your first piece of energy, which spins up a weekend of snow showers. And so that little piece of energy, that one's gone, and then another one rotates over us on Saturday, and then here's your next one that sort of rotates us over us on Sunday, and so that would lead to some days of snow showers. And then watch, there's another little energy piece that sort of rotates down around Tuesday and Wednesday, bringing you the next snow shower chances. And then watch what you've got going on out here. This is about the time frame that you would have that bigger storm system down to our south. And this particular model run hasn't been showing what isn't showing what some other model runs have been showing in the past, but just sort of give you an idea, some of the other model runs were showing a sort of a piece of energy down here that sort of raced ahead, and as this trough dipped down, it wants to build a low pressure and sort of create a storm up in here. So that's something that we're going to have to watch out for. Now, in this kind of a pattern, by the way, for those of you in the Northeast, you're going to have to watch out too, because as this game-changing cold front goes through, watch what sort of happens here, and you see that that front sort of just stalls off the coast here. The energy just sort of stays there because of that blocking. It doesn't really plow through very fast. And then watch what happens is you've got this trough digging down with all this energy. The modeling isn't catching on to this yet, but I could very easily see a scenario where this energy digs down like this, and you end up with some of this energy merging along with this stalled front. You could end up getting a low pressure that could sort of ride up that, and you could end up getting a nor'easter out of that. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to, but that is a perfectly reasonable scenario with this. The models aren't showing it yet, but we'll see whether they do. I've seen it happen in patterns like this before, so if you got travel plans up to the Northeast, keep that in mind. For us, I don't see anything necessarily significant until the 15th, but I do see multiple clipper systems that could give us a little bit of snow. How much are we talking about? Well, let's sort of look what the GFS is saying here. And so this will start us, the cold front plows through, and then behind that maybe some light accumulations in northern Indiana. I'm not really expecting it down here. I don't think it's going to be much of anything. But with those clipper systems that roll through, watch this. So there's your first clipper system on Friday, Saturday. Now you're coming into Sunday, and by the time you get through that, there are places in southern Indiana that could get 4 inches out of this, is what the data is pointing to at this point. Places even along the Ohio River that could be getting an inch or two out of this. So it's not something to take lightly here. And by the way, this would be over a course of 3 days, not all at once here. It's not one big storm. Again, it's multiple clippers moving through, and then as you go through it, you've got the next clippers that rolls through the next week, and then you sort of get this idea. And so if I just if I change the view over here to the Midwest, I think you'll be able to see this a little easier here. Let's watch how this rolls in, and then as you get to the end of the period with those, before that big storm rolls in with all those clippers, well, you could be talking about some sizable amounts up to our north, but even down here over southern Indiana, you're talking, from a dusting up to 2 or 3 inches, and even up to 5 inches here closer to Bloomington. So we're not talking about anything insignificant here on the GFS. Now, again, this is a week or more away, so these totals are almost virtually meaningless at this point, but it is highlighting a pattern here that shows us that something is coming. And let me just sort of I don't have that in. Let me take you, I don't have my thumb drive in. Let me take you out to my blog. On my blog, I did a post earlier today. And you can always go to southernindianaweather.com and get these, but I did a post earlier today that I had this, kind of timed it out with some words a little bit more. Here's what I'm looking for. Let me just open that in a new tab, and you can kind of see what you're seeing here is the last 9 runs of the GFS as far as snow totals for here in the area. And you can see it's all across the board as you would expect, but what you're seeing is a consistent signal for snow. Even on these ones that were a little bit lighter, you're looking at an inch or two around here, and you're looking at some just absolutely burying us, and some not as much. But the idea is that it's a pretty consistent signal for snow, and that's good if you like if you like snow. All right, even the ensembles are showing it, so it's got ensemble support here too. This is the ensemble mean from the GEFS, the GFS ensembles, and you can see there's at least 2 or 3 inches of snow supported in the means. Go and look at the individual members, and you can see the individual members, and I think I'm covering it up here by this, so let me just sort of break this out and move this over here for you, and you can see even those individual members wanting to show this as well. And so, you know, there are some, you know, like this one up here doesn't really have a lot for southern Indiana. This one misses it down to the south, but you know, you get ones like this one, and this one's pretty good. That one's pretty good. There's a little bit in that one, decent one in that one, big ones in that one, decent ones in that one, some pretty big ones in there. That one's got some iffy there, definitely some big snows there, big ones there, big ones there. You get the idea. Plenty of ensemble members, as you look at the individual data here, are pointing to us that we have the potential for snow. Now again, don't focus on snow totals this far out, because this far out they're not going to be accurate. What you're looking at is the pattern. You're wanting the models to sort of sniff out the pattern for you, and that's exactly what they're doing, and they're doing a pretty good job at it. It's going to be a very active pattern. It's going to be a very cold pattern that historically produces snow for us. And again, folks, you know, if you go back to the vorticity map that I showed you here, whenever you get pieces of energy consistently working in like that with those cold temperatures, the reality is that you say it's cold. Isn't it going to be so dry that there's no precipitation there really to work with? These little vort maxes that roll through can sort of find energy that the model doesn't see. So I'm almost certain that at some point in time we're probably going to have some snow showers out of this. Is it going to be anything significant? That remains to be seen yet. I think for your biggest chances, I would look towards the December 15th storm, really. That's the one that I think has the most potential at this point. For the other ones, you're probably looking at clipper systems that historically they dump 2 inches or less, sometimes even just a light coating around this area. So we'll just have to see. Could be some fun times ahead, some festive snows, if nothing else, but certainly a colder and more active pattern. So, you know, prepare now. Get your de-icer and get your snow shovels and all that you need to get before the rush comes, because I'm telling you, as you head into next week and they start to see these potential snow showers, you know everybody's going to rush the store. Even if it's a potential of a light coating, people will rush the stores and get the bread and milk and get the salt for the sidewalks and all of that. You've been warned in advance that it's coming. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite. I'll have another one of these for you soon.